When it comes to building great software, how you test is just as critical as how you code. Today, we're diving into two heavyweight philosophies that shape everything about modern testing: the classic testing pyramid and the newer testing trophy. We're going to break down what they stand for and, more importantly, help you figure out which one is the right fit for you.
It really all boils down to this one single question that every single development team on the planet has to ask. How do we build quality software and actually ship it without getting bogged down for weeks in testing? It's this constant battle between confidence and speed. And that's exactly the problem the pyramid and the trophy were built to solve. So before we can really pit these two strategies against each other, we need to get on the same page about the building blocks. See, both models use the exact same three types of tests. But, and this is the key, they arrange them in completely different ways. Let's do a quick run through. Okay, first up, you've got your unit tests. Think of these as putting your code under a microscope. They look at the tiniest, most isolated little pieces, like a single function, and just make sure that one little piece does exactly what you expect. The best part? They are incredibly fast and tell you exactly where a problem is with surgical precision. Next, we zoom out just a little bit to integration tests. These are all about making sure the different pieces can actually talk to each other. Can your application really connect to the database and pull data? When your front end calls the API, does it get back what it expects? These tests are crucial for making sure all the parts of your system play nicely together. And finally, we have the big picture, end-to-end tests, or E2E for short. These are basically your robot users. They literally open up your app and click through it, just like a real person would, to make sure an entire workflow, from signing in to buying a product to logging out, works perfectly from start to finish. And this table right here, this lays out the fundamental trade-off. Unit tests, super cheap and fast, but they only see a tiny piece of the puzzle. End-to-end tests, they give you massive confidence, but man, they are slow and can be a pain to maintain. Integration tests are right there in the middle. Honestly, the whole debate between the pyramid and the trophy is really about how you choose to balance these trade-offs. So, with those basics covered, let's talk about the classic champion of testing strategy, a model that's been the gold standard for developers for well over a decade now, the testing pyramid. So this whole idea comes from Mike Cohn's book, Succeeding with Agile, way back in 2009. And the philosophy is built on two really simple but powerful rules. First, you need tests at different levels. And second, the higher you go up that pyramid, meaning the bigger the scope of the test, the fewer of those tests you should have. And those two rules give us this iconic pyramid shape. At the bottom, you have this massive, solid foundation of thousands of lightning-fast unit tests. This is what gives developers that immediate feedback, which is why the pyramid is such a perfect fit for things like test-driven development. Then you have a smaller layer of integration tests, and right at the very tip top, just a tiny handful of those big, slow end-to-end tests. But technology never stands still. The web of 2009, with things like Internet Explorer and Flash, is a completely different universe from today's world of super complex front-end frameworks like React and Angular. And these new complex applications created a whole new set of challenges, which sparked the need for a fresh approach. And this new way of thinking was captured perfectly in this one little quote from Guillermo Rauch, who's a huge voice in the web development world. Write tests, not too many, mostly integration. His argument was simple: find the sweet spot. He argued that integration tests give you the biggest bang for your buck, the best return on investment, because they test how things work together without being tied to the nitty-gritty details. So this idea really started to catch fire in the community, and pretty soon another developer, Kent C. Dodds, took that core philosophy and formalized it. He built it into a concrete model that we now call the testing trophy, and it was designed specifically for the kinds of apps we're all building today. Now, the trophy does something really interesting. It adds a whole new layer at the foundation that the pyramid never really talked about: static testing. This is stuff you're probably already using, tools like ESLint or TypeScript that analyze your code and find problems before you even run it. It's the absolute cheapest and fastest way to catch a huge number of bugs. And here is the big twist. The trophy completely rebalances the priorities. Instead of that huge base of unit tests, it makes integration tests the absolute star of the show, the biggest part of your test suite, by far. Unit tests are still there, for sure, but they play a much, much smaller role. All right, showdown time. Let's put these two models side by side. Because when you see their core ideas directly compared, the fundamental differences in how they approach testing just become crystal clear. Okay, so here's the bottom line. The pyramid builds your confidence from the inside out. It's all about saying, if every tiny little piece of code works perfectly, then the whole system should work. But the trophy? It builds confidence from the outside in. It focuses on tests that act more like a real user, arguing that this gives you way more confidence and a better return on your time. So, after all that, which one is better? Which one wins? Well, the answer is neither of them. This isn't about one being universally the best. It's about picking the right tool for the job you're doing. The kind of app you're building and how your team likes to work should be what drives your decision. So here are a few rules of thumb to help you decide. You might want to lean towards the pyramid for things like back-end services that have tons of complex business logic inside, or if your team is really all in on test-driven development. The trophy, on the other hand, is often a fantastic fit for modern front-end apps or for microservice architectures, where the interaction between services is the most important and most fragile part of the system. And hey, one last practical tip, and this applies no matter which shape you choose. Don't get obsessed with chasing 100% test coverage. Seriously, getting that last 20% often costs way more effort than the confidence it gives you. The real goal is to find that sweet spot, which for many projects is right around 80%. That's where you get the most confidence for your time. That's the real return on investment. And all this leaves us with one last question to chew on, looking towards the future. As AI tools start writing more and more of our code for us, what does testing even look like then? Will the next big testing model be focused on checking the AI's work, getting into the nitty-gritty implementation details? Or will we just trust the machine and focus all our efforts on testing the high-level user behavior? The next big shift in testing is right around the corner.